coming down to.
Medical marijuana thing is a hearing or?
It's just
For
for
the
the
moratorium.
moratorium.
That will be the public hearing on the zoning bylaw, yeah, on the 23rd.
Oh, we let it get signed.
On April 11th, we can go to a cocktail party.
I know, right? Just don't stay late.
Maybe it could come here. Oh, it's 5 to 7:30. Have a good night.
Is that my package you're looking at?
I didn't,
Oh, we all got one.
This is yours? That was mine, it was over here, I brought it. Shit, yes. I think it was last week. I've got everything here. Almost looks like I know I'm enjoying it. Did 7:30 say when they wanted to come back in?
no, he didn't. He said, he just said he didn't have plans or sketches yet.
How, did he say the acres we were talking about?
No, it's the, what we used to know as the Brox Industries site, that Matt Bob did the 40B in Groton. There's a slice of it that's in Littleton with no Littleton access. Access would be off of 119 through Groton. He's looking at, it's maybe 3 acres. I think
This is the map parcel,
it's the Littleton portion of it.
right, which I think is map Bob. At one point, they actually, I guess the Groton Conservation Commission, before our Conservation Commission, they applied for a grant to try to protect it. Since I think it's the state's largest vernal pool, but the access is complicated. It's either go past a residential property, the last house on the line, or go to Groton.
Yeah, the developers, or potential developers had indicated that it had been sold to a church of some sort.
That's a change.
I'm not aware of any of that, but,
Okay, well, we have a 740 A&R for the Harvard Road relots. These are the ones that are going to be used for the affordable housing, to help fund the affordable housing.
Right. Do you have a copy of the plan? We'll spread it out.
if you would, that'd be great.
So this is just in keeping with the decision you made to allow 2 more
Yeah.
lots to be built as duplex. Duplex on each lot down on Harvard Road. And this is just the A&R plan to make that happen.
They're going to be sold at market value, and the proceeds are going to go to fund affordable housing.
7%.
7% of the sales price.
And I think the host community agreement's been signed. I think the only undone thing is to transfer the conservation land, and I wanted to check with you here tonight while we're on the subject about who the recipient of that should be, bearing in mind it was going to provide a parking lot and perhaps a trail up to Oak Hill, but it also has on it the water tower easement going to Light and Water. And I didn't know if you wanted it to go to the Conservation Commission, the Light and Water Department, or just the town of Wilton.
Now, who owns the rest of it? Who owns where it goes up to? This is the easement.
Conservation Commission owns Oak Hill, if that's what you're asking.
Not this area here.
Right, so
This is part of the original parcel, and if you've been up there, the trail is right.
So- Conservation has what this is going to.
I think so,
Yeah, I
too.
mean, it's,
So it
they
makes
have
sense.
care and management of.
Just wanted to make sure this time.
Unless you can fit a soccer field on it.
I know.
Wish I could.
But it does say conservation's open space, so that's what we'll put in there.
You might want to check with Salvas before you do it to see what he wants on top of it, since we still have it. You know, just to make sure he's okay, we know full well that there's, or make sure conservation will know full well that there's a pipe on right there, it's a big pipe on right there.
I think Myron and I put, did that get in the final draft? It put that the transfer will be made subject to the easement to the water department.
It's there, but I wanna make sure.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay.
I thought there was a specified amount of money that was, when the two lots were taken out of that, to go to,
Minimum of $50,000
per lot?
7%, no, for the two lots.
So,
50 total, 7% of sales price, whichever's greater.
Mark, do you want to give a brief description of what this is all about to the people who
Sure.
have
This-
no idea right now?
We did an open space, over 55, affordable housing subdivision up of Reed Meadow in Harvard. And because of the economics, it was difficult to sell the affordable units and to get people to qualify for the affordable units. And it's taken so long that unfortunately the developer had to sell them to keep the project running. The bank has pretty much been working with you, short of taking
They
the
pretty
project
much control the project.
to keep it going, and at the end, we were squeezed with really no affordable housing component of this left. So the best solution we could come up with, it after talking to the town council and legal and the developer, his attorney, was to give them 2 more lots right on the street that were going to be left as open space, but we turned them into 2 more duplexes, and the profits from the duplexes will go towards funding affordable housing in the town of Littleton. So we still get some sort of affordable housing. If we can sell them as, you can still try to sell them as affordable housing, correct?
They were deemed market rate now, with, like I said, with a minimum of 50,000 going to the town, or 7%, whichever's greater. And we're hoping it's gonna be greater, so it'll amount to about $80,000 going to the town's housing.
But it is gonna be, the money will go towards affordable housing.
Correct.
Right, and that post-community agreement between the developer and the Board of Selectmen has been signed.
Okay. So it's
Each of those places have to sell for at least, what, 350,000 each?
Oh, I wish, yeah, no.
Well,
they're-
7% of 100,000 is 7,000.
Mhm.
7 times 7 is 49,000, right?
But the floor is 50.
The
Or it's
50
50. so
50 or
there's-
70.
the 50 would be the absolute minimum if I had to sell them. The maximum would be 7% of what the sale price would be, so hopefully
again,
they're
it
gonna
goes-
sell for above $300,000, and,
So it's still 49,000, so. So unless you get over 350 for each one, then we're just looking at 50 grand.
Yeah.
no, I think
Seven
7,
times 7 is 49, and 7% of 700,000 is 49,000.
it's 4 total.
4 units.
I thought there was only 2.
Two buildings,
2 lots,
4
Oh,
units.
2 on each
sorry.
lot, yeah, so it's 4 units.
See,
Yeah, so they,
relying on you and math is a bad idea.
No.
I had the math was right,
They had
just the
math
numbers were
right.
wrong.
Yeah,
both
the
the town
assumptions are-
and the developer
So
hopes
anyway-
they sell for more.
What we're trying to do is get a little bit of money back for the town for affordable housing in a situation that unfortunately that you got caught in the economic downturn, and this is the best, I think it's the best
Quagmire
for a
of
bad
life.
situation.
Yeah, it's a good solution. It works all around.
And there is still an open space component, and we will make sure that that goes to conservation so that it connects the Oak Hill trails and gives the residents of town a way to get up to the.
I did already cut a trail up there to the,
I see the
goes to the
parking lot
existing
still
trail.
on
The parking lot is still there proposed, exactly as it was always shown, but I already cut the trail up and wood chipped it, it goes up to it. It's a bit of a hike, it's a hill, but it's,
And one of your residents is actually very active and working, John Zimmer, works
yes,
to
yeah,
provide trails. so-
yeah, we put another access in on the Reed too for them.
So that's it in a nutshell.
So it can either go to conservation or to who?
It's probably gonna go to conservation since it butts up to conservation.
Right, they own the rest of the.
That's what it's
manage
just
the
to make
rest
out
of it.
to.
Well,
The only
if
thing
they
is
have
that-
enough, what do they need more if they already got the rest of it?
Well, it's going to them, it's making it so that you can get to their trail system, so who do you wanna give it to?
I mean, it's sole management of a resource in town.
Well, whatchamacallit's right next to them, isn't they? Very Fine's right next to them, I would give it a Very Fine.
How about I sell it to Verify?
See, I should have put it with the map. Anyway, so that's where we're at with that.
Careful.
It's the best of an awkward bad situation.
So we would ask if you would sign the site plan tonight and record it at the registry of deeds.
Well, how about if we do it at the end?
That's
Is that all right?
fine.
You come back. pick
You're
it
gonna,
up
yeah, you're gonna,
tomorrow.
yeah, you're gonna make me stay till the end. No, I'll come back to it. That's
You don't need
fine.
your candy.
Right, and then actually, we still have one more piece hanging on that, was the final wording on the special permit decision. You voted it in October, on October 25th, pending review by town council and then final approval of the wording. We've got that figured out, if you want to take a few minutes at the end to do that,
Sure.
or now, whatever.
Well, we have a couple, why don't we do it right now? Let's get it done with now. Town council's been okay with everything, so. Just wanna go ahead and
Thank you very
make sure
much.
we're all on the same page.
So he thinks actually.
You want- Yeah, why don't we go, well, is everybody, why don't we sign it while we're going? Let's get it all done.
And how many do you need signed?
I guess she wants us to sign now.
So the way the decision is formatted, it's the same as you saw for the October 25th meeting, except now it's,
Guys, open space parcel, number of totals,
Mhm.
yeah.
right, and
Duplexes.
those are the numbers that were missing before, is the acreage of the open space and the names of the new lots.
Okay.
XX,
let's-
XX.
Does anyone have a problem with this? Anyone have a problem with the plan? Why don't we close it?
Okay,
Close it?
so on page 3, in the middle there, the wording, this decision was reviewed by town council, and then the planning board confirmed the wording for this special permit modification at their meeting of today by a vote of, so I guess I'm asking for a vote on this final wording.
I move that we approve
Which one?
So moved, second.
Second.
All in favor?
it.
Aye. All right, so we want to open
Posted,
site plan.
And the only sheet left to sign it is
Yeah, the motion to approve the site plan. Second. All in favor? Aye. So why don't we sign it? That way you don't have to wait, Sherry. How's that? One stop shop.
so look at it, each one of these things is signed.
you don't have to sign those. Thank you.
I'm good with one. I just need,
Aaron, do you have a?
one, the Mylar for the
Oh,
registry.
I do.
Motion sign now. That's not enough, huh? It is?
That's a booklet. There might be a white one under it, but it's in the, new Mylar paper.
You guys wanna come up and sign it here?
That's for people.
Mary, how many signed ones do you need?
Is there any way to get the engineer to scan the signed one and just PDF? That's the easiest way, then I'll just hold one.
This one's water.
How many things, Terry? Three? Only three?
There were only two white ones in a Mylar, 3 total.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right, 7:45 public hearing for 500 King Street. Water Resource District special permit.
I also wanted, before, to thank the board for working with me through this whole project. It's made it all possible. And we did take the last one under agreement up there, and so the next time you see me, it's for road bond. Which I feel like I've waited for.
It was a good experience working with
Yes, it worked out. Thank you very much.
Good to see you.
Thank you.
you. Okay, public hearing. Time?
Yeah, you're right there.
Okay, Water Resource District special permit at 500 King Street. The Town of Littleton Planning Board will hold a public hearing on Thursday, March 28th, 2013 at 7:45 in room 103 of the Shattuck Street Town Hall at 37 Shattuck Street. To consider the application for a special permit pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 40A, and the Code of the Town of Littleton zoning, Aquifer Water Resource District. Property location is 500 King Street, Assessor's Map U8, Parcel 5, Owner is Global Companies LLC. Applicant is Alliance Energy. The application is for a Water Resource District special permit to allow the use having estimated sewage flow exceeding 6 gallons per day per 1,000 square feet of lot area within the Water Resource District. Application plans can be viewed at the planning board and town clerk's office during their regular business hours. Any person interested wishing to be heard on the proposed plan should appear at the time and place designated. Don McIver, clerk.
Okay. This is the mobile, correct?
That's correct.
For those in the audience. Do you want to turn it a little so that
Yep.
there's any interested parties that want to take a look at what's being proposed here?
Do you need to set a plan for data with it as well, or? Go ahead. Start with it.
Okay.
All right, for the record, my name is David Jordan. I'm an engineer and land surveyor with MHF Design in Salem, New Hampshire. And I'm representing Alliance Energy for this project at 500 King Street. And what's being proposed at Arches Mobile is a remodel of the building to eliminate the 3 garage bays that are on the west side of the building and to put inside a new coffee shop. It's going to be counter service only, no seats, no tables and chairs, no drive-through. Right now, as you know, there is a convenience store in there. That component will remain. So again, what we're really looking to do is just take out the garage bays, put a coffee shop in here, a couple of small bump-out, fill-in additions in the back, provide space for coolers, etc. And that's really what's being proposed. A remodel existing building, not a big change to the building itself from the outside. So in conjunction with this, a couple things that we need to talk about. They will be installing a second entrance to the store on the east side of the building facing King Street. Right now there is a door facing Route 119 that will remain. The second door will be added facing King Street. We're going to rework the walkways and parking on that east side of the building. We're adding some pavement in a couple locations, and we're taking some pavement out in others to try to balance out the impervious areas that are there currently. We are going to restripe the parking that's around the site. Once that is done, we're going to have a total of 47 spaces, including the spaces at the pumps as well, because that's part of the calculation also. So in terms of exterior changes, I think the main thing you're going to see is just the restriping of the lot, and again, a new walkway configuration on the east side of the building. Right now, there's a brick patio in there. That's also where some of their septic system components are currently. A lot of that's going to be removed and that area landscaped. The other thing we need to discuss is the sewage loading for this building. Is adding a coffee shop component to the building does increase the sewage load. So we will be installing or upgrading the existing system. Right now, there's a series of tanks and a pump on the east side of the building and a leach field in this location here. That leach field will remain and continue to be used, but in addition to that, we're installing a complete new set of tanks, leach traps, a new pump, and a second leach field to work in conjunction as part of this overall expansion of the septic system itself. Because of that, we have gone to the Board of Health, because this lot, which is just around 1 acre in size, with this sewage loading, and actually even before this sewage loading, this site previously exceeded the requirement of 6 gallons per day per 1,000 square feet. And the reason we're limited to that is because we are in the Water Resource District. We're not in the Aquifer District, but we are in the Water Resources District. So we went to the Board of Health and did obtain a variance from them for the proposed sewage loading for the site with this remodel. If we're successful here this evening, we still need to go back to the Board of Health with our final septic design, but we're not undertaking that until we know we have the approval of this board. So I guess in a nutshell, that's what we're looking to do. I'd be happy to go into whatever level of detail you want us to go into as far as the septic system, as far as anything else.
How about we start with the site plan, since you've already been to the Board of Health and Septic, and that's really their area of
Yep.
expertise, I think we're gonna probably rely on them. So if they issue the permit, then I think the board would probably be, I mean, assuming the board would probably be okay with that, right?
I got no problem.
Yeah, sure.
You do or you don't?
No problem.
Yeah, that's what's out.
What's the floor?
Can you, first of all, go over the calculations of how you came up with how much parking you need for it?
Yeah, under the site plan regulations, the parking regulations, we are required to provide, because it's a service station with a convenience store. So again, that's a condition that exists today. It's not changing, we're just, again, remodeling the inside. Service station with convenience store, you need one space per pump, one per employee, one per service bay, which right now we do have 3 service bays. We will not have any service bays with this, after this remodel. And then one space per 50 square feet of gross floor area. So when you run the calculations, to leave the number of spaces required is 82. And again, what we're providing on site is 47, which is essentially the same as what's out there today currently.
Is that on here? That's what I was.
That's under note number 5 on sheet 3. I think you're looking at the existing conditions, so the next sheet.
No, I'm sorry, parking analysis, okay.
So that summarizes the requirements.
Well, a little low in the parking. Is that including taking the pumps? That's
It does include the pumps, yes.
47 spaces including the pumps?
Yes.
So this is gonna be more like the Sunoco station down at the depot.
Yeah.
No tables, no chairs, just
No.
a gas station with a convenience, small little convenience store, and you run in and grab a cup of coffee and run out.
Takeout only, no seats.
You won't increase the non-pervious, correct? I mean, which, you pretty much got almost the whole thing is paved now, so you're not increasing
No, we're
paving
at,
area, right?
we're at 73% lot coverage, which is building and pavement, walkways, everything.
And when you're done, it'll be,
We're right about the same. As I said, we're eliminating some pavement in a couple areas, and the biggest add would be actually just moving the dumpster. Right now, it's tucked in behind the building. We're moving it back here to this location. This will be screened with arborvitaes. It just provides a better way for the trash truck to get in and service it.
and that won't be on top of pavement, it will be on pavement.
That'll be on a concrete pad.
One of the problems that we learned from the Shell station was that when you count parking at the pumps, you gotta make sure that people can get around the cars that are parked there. Can you, for the next meeting, or get us a layout that shows that cars can actually get around these stacked cars that are in the queued up to the pumps?
The only time you have problems, Mark, if you get gas there, the only time I've ever seen a problem is when there's 2 vehicles at the far right pump pulling in from the light area, that corner right there, if one's sitting there and another one's waiting, that's the only time that you can't get in and get by anything that I've found.
No, I just wanna make sure, like, if you go to the Shell station and there are 2 people parked there, you can't get around.
Right.
I just
Mark,
wanna
I
make
don't
sure-
think the existing conditions are such that you can get a car around a parked car at the pump, and
Yeah,
that
no,
can't
you
change.
can't.
That's not gonna change.
You gotta have enough space in the middle of it so that a car can, in the
It's
middle.
only, you can still get around the left-hand side, it's the one on the right, you know, where the first entrant right there.
Right here.
That's the only place you have any issues getting in if the cars are backed up at that pump, which is very rarely.
If the car's in front of.
Can I go give them a-
Sure, if the cars are parked here,
Yep.
and this guy wants to get out, I wanna make sure there's enough space for him to get between this car and this.
We don't have what you're referring to as the other location in town. When a car's parked here, there's a car parked here, there's no space between it, never has been, it's always been, this is enough for, this is kinda, if this was kinda smaller, I guess, there's a car here, there's a car here, they're side by side, there's
There's
no,
no space for this guy to get
no.
between.
There's plenty of room this way around this one, you get by there, and the only issue I've ever had is right here, well, right there, then they come around here. If there's a car filling and another one behind it, that's tight there. That's the only issue, but that says exit only, of course, some people going.
Pedestrian wise, you can get through, no problem, but you can't drive a car, like the 2 cars here, you can't get through.
So that's the problem, so when this all backs up, and people are in here getting bumpy.
No, so because there's 30 spaces in addition. There's 16 at the pump, there's 16 pumps.
Right.
They're proposing 30 additional spaces. Your Shell and your Sunoco maybe have 8 to 10 additional spaces.
The
So
Shell
there's a
station.
huge-
Yeah, sure.
Shell's got 7,
They've got nothing.
legitimate spaces is 7. I mean, people back.
I just wanna make sure that when people can get out of there, when the people in the front,
They can't and they won't. We're not changing the pumps and
and
we're
you're not
not
gonna,
changing.
you're gonna make sure there's no parking in the middle, because that's
Well,
the
there,
other thing you
you
do.
can't, literally, you
You
can't, if you
can't.
came down, there's 2 cars here side by side, you can't squeeze another car through.
So you're even tighter than the Shell station, because they can at least put a car in, that's what really screws up.
Well, what they're doing is they're doing it a different way, and they're probably wider in this, in some of the way they formatted this, but ExxonMobil, when they designed these in the past, this is the way they felt was, worked for them at places. That we've done this since '83, Mark. There's no change to this at all.
I just want to, like I said, the issue you have is when people block these pumps, and the people behind them can't get out because they're waiting for, make McMuffin, or whatever they're waiting for in here, and they block everybody else. And then what makes it even worse, which yours is probably better, because you can't fit a car between the two of them. People park in the middle, and then nobody can move.
Well, I've never had anybody park in the middle, honestly. I've only had
If
people
you're
park.
really worried about flow, let's give them, not have these parking spaces, drop that corner and just leave that open and flow through.
It still screws up in the middle. I'm more
Who
worried
cares
about
about the mill?
I'm worried about people, this guy coming and getting gas and then running and grabbing a donut.
Then the back-
6 minutes.
If the back, first of all, I don't see that happening a whole lot in a place that isn't the local hangout. Like the Shell is for locals, and we all go there in the morning and we park our cars and we go in. If you go to a highway cut type of gas station, that this one is, you come off the highway, people fill up at the pump and then they move to a parking space.
Honestly, Mark, when people are here now for my inspections, people wind up here, and then people wind up here, and people are getting gas here. Even on a Friday these days, I can get right through 2 cars.
Yeah, that's, but when you
I'm just
start-
saying that point, that's all I'm saying.
No, all I'm saying is when you put Dunkin' Donuts in that.
I'm not
Well, whoever,
100% sure about that yet.
whoever you put in there, whenever you put a chain of a coffee and donut store, people are gonna get their gas and then go in and get, it's gonna take 4 or 5 minutes. And all I'm saying is I wanna make sure we don't have the same concept of experience.
That back car can back into the wide, if you point that out, imagine it.
And I agree, if you wanna take some of this out to make it easier to flow around, I think we should look at the easiest way to flow cars in and out. Because nobody's gonna park, get gas, then park somewhere and go in and get it.
You're right, they're not going to, but I can promise you, when I plow this, and I put snow up in here, I try pushing the corners, even in the worst times, I have cars here, getting stickers, and I have snow, and I have no problem with this at all, Mark. This is not a problem, honestly.
No, I agree, that's fine, I'm just worried about this, the backup that you see at the Shell station. Somebody goes in to get a donut, fills up with gas, gets a donut, but does it backwards, gets the donut first, then comes on, puts gas in it, and it just blocks everybody else
And
out.
oil issues, once
Here's
you
what it
start
is.
hanging in
Mark,
here,
It is what it is,
it becomes
it is what it is.
an oil tank in the back end.
What's the you can't change it.
I've
So I
seen,
wanna make sure, I just wanna make sure that it's, there's, first of all, you're gonna stripe it so that you're gonna say no parking, things like that, just to make the best of a bad situation, that's all I'm
Yeah,
saying.
I do.
And the other, if he had 87 spaces and we weren't gonna discount the amount of spaces that out there, we wouldn't have a problem, but he only has 47, so we have to minimize the amount of time that people stay at the pumps.
He has
He can stripe
47
it and
now.
label it.
Right,
He has 47 with a requirement now, under the new village common zoning, to provide pedestrian access and pedestrian elements and other guidelines when they're.
but he needs 87 to put it in.
No, I understand that.
All I'm just trying to say is I'm trying to minimize the problems that are at the pumps at other places, just by signage. And it took
Yeah.
a couple of years to get that one-way in, one-way out thing to work at the Shell station. Just wanna make sure.
I have the one-way in now, no out on that middle island, by the way, the middle exit. It is one way.
what problems do come up if with an increased demand going in there and spending more time?
No, we only have one shot at this, that's why we wanna make sure that we look at the way it flows and make sure everything flows the best it possibly can. Maybe even take some of this green area out to make a better flow pattern through it. If you can't get any more parking, you wanna make sure you get people in and out nice and easy, so.
So this is preliminary.
No, this is
This is
definitive.
special permit.
This is special, this is This is what we're talking about, you know, he's asking for our input, how to make this the most efficient in the work, and we've seen the problems that we've had in other gas stations, we just wanna make sure
But
that
they're
we don't
not,
have the same.
they're not asking for a decision tonight, are
You know
they?
the curb on the right-hand
We'd
side
like
by
to-
the
we'd like
lights?
to move forward, we'd like to move forward for spring
The,
opening.
Push that back 2 or 3 feet?
And how are we gonna resolve the
can.
issue
One at a time, go through the check.
What issue?
of pedestrian access?
He's got, you're gonna put a sidewalk right here, so we have a sidewalk coming down all the way from the IBM site, so there's pedestrian access there. You're not gonna get any pedestrian access on 119, correct? It's gonna be on the other side and have to cross,
Cross,
right?
Come and show where's the pedestrian.
Yeah, so
There's the sidewalk on the King Street side.
There's no sidewalk here. There's no sidewalk down there.
And there's almost nothing here, there's a crosswalk here, they're gonna have to walk across that way.
Right.
Or walk across this.
At the
that
satellites.
interchange.
Is there a
At the
rule,
satellites.
that corner, right, where your pen is right there? Is there a rule as to how far from the corner they have to have it, that curbing? Because if they can take 3 feet out of that curbing, it makes that entrance
That's exactly what I'm trying to say. I don't have a problem you having more.
I don't know if there's a rule on that.
But make it so that we
Plus,
decide how this.
like trucks went over it all the time anyway.
Accessible as you can once. See what I'm saying?
If you can shorten that right-hand corner,
Can't put a sidewalk in there.
that
Because
is,
it's
huh?
easier.
I think it's hunky-dory.
I'm speaking here.
You don't,
Get some people here, just make sure.
Shorten this curve up right here. Shorten that up right on like that, and you're all done. Yes, that's it. It's done. Can we vote?
Probably no ramp.
that's it.
Jerry, you want to vote?
Modifying his curb. No, we're not, no, we want to set up a plan that shows nice, how they're gonna get in and get out and around.
And some method of getting along the straight roadside with the,
Pedestrian traffic.
with
You can't,
foot traffic.
there's no.
It's gonna connect to the sidewalk that's going over the bridge right down to Sand Park Spots. Or you're gonna have to deal with others.
Yeah, we've
Right now,
got
there's a
sand
sidewalk
parks,
on this side.
They'll have to cross again.
project to the other side of the bridge, we've got a bridge that's gonna be wide, we'll have pedestrian sidewalks everywhere except for this last little link.
They walk across.
There's a sidewalk on the other side of the road
How about if we pick up
already.
the sidewalk on the other side over here?
There already is one
Start
on
it
the other
that
side
way.
of the road.
So this side, his side, we'll put a sidewalk here and dump it down there.
Just from here to here?
Dump it
And
down.
yeah, you know, so, and stripe that so people,
You gotta connect it somehow.
Yeah, I mean, people do have to have that access.
We could probably do it in here, I'm deferring to the engineer, but we could probably stripe in here because they're not parking spaces against this line, right?
right.
It's,
This is green area, this is landscaping right
Yeah.
here.
it's very steep there too, so somehow that has to be, you have to somehow make access through there for pedestrians.
Well, I mean, it's quite likely if you're talking about bike lanes, like I'll make them.
But the,
This is so tight here, you're gonna be lucky, because there's really nothing on this side. So yeah, see what you can give us. We're not gonna worry about your percent impervious.
Or these short parking lots.
Give us a better way.
Some better flow in and.
Show us.
I
Walkway across.
know what's happening at the bridge as part of the walkways.
There is a bridge, I mean, there is a.
Right, are people doing stuff
I
too?
mean, just to the extent that this is part of your voice district.
yeah,
Let's get it at least to the end of the lot line, and we'll see what happens from there.
we can't ignore this spot, because this is right in the.
No, I agree.
it's the
We can
bullseye.
do maybe a wood chip walkway through the landscaping, right? Just to get a walkway.
Right, yeah.
No.
Yeah, I mean,
No,
yeah.
No, it's gotta be- it's
It's gonna be
gonna have to be-
handicap accessible.
There's a sidewalk up here, you know that, right?
That's right, yeah. Right, yeah, no, I know,
There's a crosswalk
right now
right
you
there.
can dump out here, and you can walk down
But
here.
there's really no sidewalk on this.
Well, there is a sidewalk
There's
right
one
here.
that goes all the way
It's
down.
tight, right up against the
But we
house,
will
but
have a
then where's it
draw
go?
across there.
Goes all the way
Goes all the
down
way
to the
down to the
bridge.
bridge.
It does.
Yeah, it does.
Goes all the way right past the entrance, backside of Littleton Lumber, goes right up over the
Right,
bridge.
so as long as they can walk across this way.
There's a big crosswalk right there with
So we don't have to worry about it, there's a crosswalk.
a pedestrian crosswalk sign there.
We're gonna have to go on the other side. But like you said, try to open this up.
Cut the curb in, I think you're all set. And the left-hand side, the north side of 119. It's nice with the grass.
All right, now this board has a problem, reduce the amount of parking spots.
It's not at all if we can get some pedestrian elements.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
Whatever you think
Now,
works for your business first, but
Well, no, I mean,
you're talking about converting the whole building now to, he's talking about converting the whole building now to a commercial, to a store. Yeah. I have no problem with that, I think that's a good thing.
I'm fine with 47.
But sure, it's nice. But there needs to be someplace where people can walk to and come from, so, striping to get from the sidewalk across your parking lot to the building.
It's funny.
Someplace for bikes, bicycle, and sit down.
It is much better than.
I have a, right now I currently have a, I have a,
Little thing, yeah.
well, maybe.
All right, so why don't,
So this is,
Maybe augmented with one over there.
yeah, we have to move along. So why don't we, can we get you on for the
April 11th?
11th?
Yeah.
Yeah, show us a circulation issue out here. We're not gonna worry about the 6 gallons per thousand with 40, deal with that. If you wanna cut back some of your plantings, I know you wanna cut back and everything, but
Well, cut back, I think we need to keep this as green as we can.
we're gonna need some more space in here for better flow to get people in.
Well,
Yeah, I'm not sure we're gonna lose the plantings, we might lose a little lawn area, but in favor of pavement.
Talking 5 or 6 feet, cut the curb and be done.
Yeah.
Okay, so what time on the 11th?
If you want to do this at 7:45?
Before, does anyone in the audience have any questions about this?
I have one question.
Mr. Sussman first.
Steve Sussman, Lake Warren Drive. I'm curious about the air hose. Is that moving, or is it going to be in the same spot that's been,
The air hose for the air tower, you'll stay in the same spot.
same spot? And there'll be a space there, but you're not going to allow parking in front of the...
I can cross that off if you want me to, that one spot.
I think he wants the air hose.
No, he's saying is there's gonna be some space in front of that, there's no parking.
Get into it.
No, we can probably deal with that.
That little secret of yours, Mr. Sussman, that's where you have hooked up? All right.
I think the whole change will be a good asset for that section of town.
I want you guys to know I'm here to work with you, I'm not here to tell you what I wanna do, I'm just here to say this is what I'm gonna do, and I'll make sure it's nice, and I'll make sure that Logan's happy with what I've done.
Going from a garage with 2 bays to a place where somebody can go and sit and have a cup of coffee is something I'm
Well, you're
very
right,
glad
not
for. Oh, you can't sit.
And like we don't have enough coffee shops, yes, ma'am, why don't we turn it into a bank too while we're at
You can do that if you want, we have an ATM, Mark.
it? Thank you, yes, ma'am.
Joanne Derry from Howard Avenue. I overheard some talk about sidewalks, and that maybe they'd be wood chips through the gardens, but if you're pushing a stroller, wood chips is really bad.
You can't.
Yes,
I also heard talk about, we don't need a sidewalk because they can cross at the crosswalk, but being a pedestrian there sometimes, it can be really hard and harrowing to get across at the crosswalk. So I don't, if there's a way to put in a sidewalk,
Well, to go to nowhere right now.
Sidewalk on this side will go to nowhere, that's the problem, so we're gonna tie
Plus
into the sidewalk that's.
isn't it on the side that would go to like IBM? Like maybe people who are walking from IBM would
No,
want
they
to go
can
there.
walk back to IBM this way rather than go this way. If IBM had a sidewalk over here, then it'd be one thing, but they don't.
well, maybe it's beginning to influence IBM.
Kept on that way there, it'd be the entrance to 495 and the entrance, the exit. So
Why
it'd
don't you do
be-
us a favor, why don't you find out from IBM if there is any intention or interest in them putting a sidewalk on their side, so if there is, then maybe we should connect.
Incorporate that
I
too.
mean, certainly the Sam Parks operation
Yeah.
that's happening,
At least-
they'll across the road.
They'll give you
There'll
something
be
to do for
probably
the-
employees that'll want to walk.
Or we can plan for a future in case they do put it in, we can at least have it.
Right,
Right,
so
you've got that 495 on and off ramp.
It'll
on
never
that
be
side of the
ramp
road.
to
It's
there.
not
Oh, yeah,
safe.
I know, I know.
You're better
I
off
know,
crossing
that's
at the
why
light, with the light and being on the
But
other side of the
IBM
road.
is before they, if people from IBM wanna come up and down on that side, at least let's see
They'll
if
walk down
they,
the
if they have any
main
plans, they probably don't, but just to follow up,
Find
to
out.
see if they do. Anyone else, before we continue this to the 11th?
They just want to be sure that you're not going to take down those oaks, are you?
What jokes, sir?
The ones on the Great Road?
No intention to take those out.
Good.
Okay,
I
all
like them too.
right, so the 11th, thank you.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you.
What time again?
7:45?
7:45. All
Alright,
right,
notice for 8 o'clock.
we have, now,
Yeah, thank you.
We have the 8 o'clock zoning amendment, bylaw amendment for public open space development. This is where we're trying to,
Okay, so here goes.
okay.
Public hearing, zoning amendment. The Town of Littleton Planning Board will hold a public hearing on Thursday, March 28th, 2013, at 8 o'clock p.m. in room 103 of the Shattuck Street Town Hall, 37 Shattuck Street, Littleton, Mass. To consider zoning amendments according to Mass General Law, Chapter 40A, Section 5. The proposed amendment is to revise the density calculation section of the open space development bylaw. The full text of the proposed bylaw is on file at the town clerk and planning board offices. It can be viewed during the regular business offices or online at www.littletonma.org. Any person interested or wishing to be heard on the proposed zoning amendments should appear at the time and place designated. The town of Littleton does not discriminate on the basis of disability. Further, a signed translation of this hearing will be provided for the hearing appeared on request by contacting the planning board office at 978-540-2425, 1 week prior to the meeting date. Don McIver, clerk.
John. The reason we're doing this is more of a planning board housekeeping sort of an issue. When, as you all know, the 40B that came before us for Omni Development sort of tied the hands of the planning board. We didn't get a chance to really look at the 40A aspect of that development. We couldn't go in and ascertain how many lots they could get from an open space in a conventional plan as we normally used to. We have Gray Farm, we have Delaney Drive, we have
Mary Shepherd.
Mary Shepherd. In the old days, we could ask the developer to show us conventionally how many lots he could perk, get rid of perk. Now that the new systems that are being proposed, shared systems and municipal systems maybe coming down in the future, we don't have the right to ask. Well, we can ask it, they don't have to answer us, and that's what happened with the Omni project. They chose not to show us any calculations as to what perked and what didn't perk up there. So what we've decided to do is, if you looked in our open space, we had a calculation, and they relied on the density calculation. They took X amount of acres, less 20% of what they said probably wouldn't work, and that's how they came up with their number. In the old days, we had the option of asking them to perk it, or show us perks, and they did. Now, with the new state, with the shared systems and things like that, we want to have the ability to at least ask for perks and see what condition the soils are before we say, oh yeah, you can have 50 lots there when half of it's underwater and things like that. It gives us the option to at least address the perkability or the desirability of some of these subdivisions that may come before us in the future. We're not talking about whether or not they can or can't do a conventional or an open space. That comes later, once the calculations are done. We're also not talking whether we want to put a shared system in or a municipal system. It has nothing to do with that. All it has to do with is if you have, say, a 10-acre parcel, we'd like to know how many lots really would fit on that 10 acres. You can't tell us 10 would fit there when you have a pond, a 3-acre pond in the middle of it. You can't say that. The way it used to be is we could ask for perks. Now with the shared systems and everything, we weren't allowed to ask for perks to give us a background number. So this is another way, another tool in our toolbox so that we can try to find out the condition of what we're approving from a conventional to an open space plan. I'm going to let the board talk first, and then I'll open up to the public. Does the board have any questions or issues they want to talk about?
This is it right here.
This is it right here.
It says septic system for 4-bedroom residential dwelling. I don't think you can put 4-bedroom. I mean, if there are lots that will only, Long Lake, how many of those will perk for?
Yeah, but
This
most
is
developers nowadays are
I know
asking.
they want to build a 4-bedroom house to get the money out of what it costs for the land, but I don't think you can subject it to only to a 4-bedroom. Well, is that only for subdivision plans, or is it for an individual lot also?
This is just for open space, this was subdivision.
So it's 10 acres.
Well, 10
You're
acres
still tying the hands of somebody who potentially owns the land.
No, this
Ten
is,
acres or more.
this is
It's
10
not,
acres or
it's
more.
not, it's not to say that you can't build on that lot, it just goes into the formula.
The calculation, we wanna
You
see,
still got a house in that lot.
Yeah,
it
it's
just
not
means-
buildable, it's not buildable. I mean, it's
Well, if you can't put a
saturated soil.
4-bedroom house on it,
No, I
10
mean,
acres?
Don, that's not the point. It's not if it's not buildable, it's not buildable. If it was underwater, it'd be a wetland, you can't build on it. It's a lot that doesn't perk for ledge, or it's otherwise
Right.
impermeable. You can still build on the lot, you just can't include it in your density formula.
Right.
That's all.
Now, what this doesn't do, though, is if the goal here is to convert from, is to encourage open space and less normal sprawl development. And what this does is, if a person comes before us, and they can put in a denser project with sewerage, their own private sewerage, on an area where they wouldn't be able to percolate without the sewerage, then that would mean that we would lose their option to go to open space because they couldn't.
no, we don't, no, we wouldn't, because if you read our bylaw, any subdivision over 10 acres has to come with a conventional and an open space, and the planning board gets to decide which is more advantageous for the town to do, so we direct them to whether we want to see an open space or a conventional. So they have to at least address that issue in the preliminary, or they could jump right to the definitive and do it, but they have to satisfy to us first that they can do either or, and we decide which one we like better.
the only question I got is the 4-bedroom thing, is that's,
If they can, they have to show that it'll perk. It doesn't have to be a 4-bedroom, but most developers nowadays come in with a 4-bedroom plan. And they're showing a conventional subdivision plan in all 4-bedroom houses.
I realize.
So they could come in and say, I can only build 3 bedrooms, and that's fine, as long as they show us they can build something.
All right, well,
Well,
then
maybe we
that's,
should take the 4-bedroom out.
that's the only, I mean, if you get,
I-
there are lots that you can, because of the size of it and the size of the septic system you can put in it, you can only get a 2-bedroom house, because that's all, it might be great perkable, but you can't put a big enough system in. So, but again, if this only equates to 10 acres or more,
Right, it's only 10 acres or more, it's only open space, that's all it has to do.
I'd almost rather it say a conventional,
It isn't, this is for the open
no, I mean,
space.
instead of saying 4-bedroom, a conventional system can be installed, instead of putting the 4-bedroom thing.
Well,
in.
you have to put something on this so that they have a design criteria to go by. Most developers nowadays, when we see a subdivision come before us, are building to the max, which is 4-bedroom houses.
I
Well, the Natick,
understand.
when we modeled this off, it didn't say bedrooms, it just said adequate system.
And
No,
it's Framingham.
No, actually, Town of Framingham, those words came from their
Yes.
bylaw, and that was the
4
bylaw.
beds.
See the
Yeah,
4-bedroom.
it was Myron, town council, put this.
Well, it's gonna put just more land into open space. Correct. And
It's
less
just a
fences.
number, it's a number to go by to say how many
And
lots.
that withstood, went to court and everything was hunky-dory?
Right,
Fine,
that's,
I'm done, keep
So,
going.
so what happens to the guy who comes in with a conventional plan and wants to put a sewer system in? Period.
He has to show that it has to be able to perk.
We can only do that if it's under 10 acres.
It's over
But it's not,
If it's
He
over
has-
10
he still
acres,
wants
we
to
can
put it-
compel them to do an open
Open
space.
space.
And he
He
wants
has-
to put a convention, he
He
wants to
doesn't-
put a sewer system.
He doesn't get it, he doesn't, because we have an open space bylaw.
Well, he can put a sewer system in. He
He
can
can
put a
s-
sewer system in regardless, under any plan.
Right, but it has to be an open space system.
This has nothing to do with what he can actually
No, but if-
implement.
how he wants to get rid of it.
If he's got a piece of property and half of it's ledge, and it wouldn't perk, but he wants to build on it,
Yeah.
and he's gonna use a septic sewer system, and he intends to use the sewer system right out the gate.
So this is perfect for just exactly what you're
This is
asking,
exactly right.
because what happens is, he has to come before us and show a conventional and an open space. So when we see that the land is of questionable value, we can say, we don't want your conventional system, we want your open space. Now, if you still wanna put a sewage treatment system in it, that's still fine, but he's only gonna get 8 lots instead of 25 lots like he was gonna try to before.
But did town council say this would pass the muster?
Yes.
Yes, it's court test.
Okay.
I'm good with that. Anybody else?
It just gives us a way to count. We get the gazintas right.
Right, it tells you what's built. Yeah, it gives you.
So,
access.
you might actually tell them,
Questions?
Does anyone else on the board have any questions?
Concerned about it.
I don't.
No. Anybody in the audience have any questions? Yes, ma'am.
I just want to understand what it is.
Name
It's
for
Joanne
Ronnie
Deary,
again, please.
Harwood Avenue. And so are you saying like if, say the person has a 20-acre lot, but a lot of it doesn't perk, and they could really only fit 7 houses on there per the perks? So you're gonna see that and then say, okay, for the open space plan, we're not gonna allow you more than 7?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay,
Seven.
all right.
Well, they can
No,
cluster
we-
them together.
We
But
have
they'd be
discretion.
clustered, so there'd be a bunch of open space in
They'd be,
that cluster.
they'd be clustered in a
Okay.
bunch of open space.
Give them
Okay.
more than seven.
We can give them more because there's a density calculation that also goes with whether they're A&R lots on the front and they don't choose not to build them to give us some greenage buffering and stuff like that. They could actually get more if they followed all the rules and regulations of the open space. What this is just doing is giving us a number so that we take a flat piece of land and look at what's good on it and what's not good on it and get a real number rather than a calculation based on taking 20% off and then divide by 40,000. It gives us a chance to look at what's actually on that lot, which we didn't have when we were looking at what was going on at for the Omni. Anyone else?
And incentives have been built in to save things of value, such as scenic views, et cetera.
Gino?
I have 3 members here, so we didn't have any contact. We came to Peter Casanelli, myself. My name is Gino Ferraro, Chairman of the Board of Health. With due respect, Mr. Chairman, I think you overstep your boundaries because this is Board of Health situation.
We're not telling them what to put out there for a system. We don't care what you put out there.
They're
Absolutely.
putting 27,000 gallons, so they can put those houses, they can put it there. 4-bedroom, they can put up to 5-bedroom. They got nothing to do with the septic system.
Well, we don't care what they're putting in there for septic system. All we want to know is when you're coming before us and you have 10 acres of land and you want to either go conventional or open space, that we get a chance to look at the quality of the land that it's going on, whether 10 houses could go on there. Without having, in the old days, before we had shared system, we could actually ask them to perk. No, I don't want to talk.
Anyway, if you consult with the attorney, so.
Wait, but the point is, we don't care what system they put on. They can put a shared system, they can put single, they can do whatever.
Like I say, we working together.
We're not trying to
We
tell
are in
you.
the same town, we're working together. We don't step over your boundary, so be kind enough not to step in our boundary.
We're not stepping on your boundary. All we're trying to say is that if somebody does decide to come in with a shared system, that we want to have a chance to look at the land that it goes on top of. If it's all ledge, we want to be able to discount having to put 20
Why don't
houses.
we have a meeting with Board of Health and the planning
Well,
board?
we're not deciding anything on the waste treatment,
You can do it.
Process.
We're not deciding what they can or can't put on
and
there.
that's your
That's
territory.
yours jurisdiction.
Okay, thank you.
It's completely your territory on that side.
Mr. Castaneri?
Yes, I thought you mentioned the quality of the land. When you get into the quality, that's determined by our health agent as far as septic. And in order to do that, someone has to notify that agent to observe the testing. Could you please tell me who is going to do that? Because you did mention the quality of the land.
Such as the
And
soils.
Title V.
Absolutely.
Being the percolation.
So when somebody comes out and wants to do a perk test, they have to notify your agent, you have to be there to look at it. That's all we want. We want the ability to see that perk test be done. As it is right now with Omni, as you know, Omni's project, no perk tests were ever submitted to your office, and we never got a chance to see any perk tests. They never supplied you with any, did
Okay,
they?
So this regulation will not only enable, but absolutely require that someone look at it, and that's our health agent.
Absolutely.
Okay, who's gonna pay for that?
The developer pays for it like he always does.
But you do the notification, or do you do the notification
You would be
through
doing the
this board?
notification because we would want it to go through your board to make sure that you were approved, you were aware of it, and that has nothing to do with us. We just want the ability, in the old days, it was a gentleman's agreement. When Walter Barkus built down at Delaney Drive, he had perk tests done, he went through your board, he did the perk test, we got a chance to see how many lots perked out there when we made our decision for that open space project.
We appreciate in essence what you're doing. I think it would have been far more fruitful had you come to the board and discussed it with the board prior to this, but that's your prerogative.
I understand and I apologize. The issue probably is, the reason we didn't is because in the old days, they always had to come before you. We're making sure they still have to come before you. They can't circumvent you, just like Omni did. Did Omni do any perk tests or did you get any? No, neither did we.
Yeah, I don't think there's any question about someone evading anything or anything. I think it's going to create a little bit of confusion here. That's what I hope doesn't.
We just want a perk test that has been registered and recorded by the Board of Health. And
Well,
that
that
you
always
guys,
is required.
yeah, but it isn't anymore, that's the point. They don't have to come before us anymore and show us that the land perks.
The first regulation on the local Board of Health regulations is that every permit has to be signed by the local board. And that includes groundwater discharge, over 10,000. The 10,000 is required for groundwater. It doesn't negate our responsibility and authority. And I think this would have all been a little clearer.
Just maybe we need to put together a process to make sure it's integrated with what you do.
Exactly, make sure that.
And make sure you get to see everything.
You're made aware
We're
of
just
it
trying to get
as
baseline of
part
what's
of-
buildable.
we could do that as part of our protocol when they come before us, that they have to meet with you, and before we sign off that they've signed off and have done perks pursuant to your rules and regulations.
Well,
I have no problem with
I
that
do
at all.
hope it works out as well as you hope.
Well, it's at least a start, let's put it that way. It's better than having nothing to tell them to go
Have you
show.
checked regarding even groundwater discharge and all the aspects of DEP as to whether or not this regulation of yours will run counter on any of the aspects of that?
It's,
Okay.
Yeah, that's right, soils and percolation
Right,
sufficient.
The wording came directly from the town of Framingham's bylaw, and that.
Down at Framingham?
Yeah, and that bylaw was, the court
Challenge the
upheld that bylaw. That was a recent
Well,
court decision.
let's hope Framingham.
Right, well, what I was curious is, looking at the soils and the perk test, is that sufficient really for looking at the buildability? We just want to understand what's the basis of what could be built conventionally, so then the density can be figured out, cluster zoning. But is soils and percolation really sufficient, or should there be some other test in there too?
I think that's all we can ask.
Well, you've got to deal with volume, refusal, you've got a lot of things to deal with.
Right,
And
for
it's not
actual
simple.
system, yeah.
We just want the ability to go in there and get a rough idea of how many of these lots will park, that's
Well,
all. Anyone else?
Going
have-
forward with it, let's hope you,
So we need to figure out process.
thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? What have any other issues?
Peter, what Peter was touching on is kind of what I was touching on too, is that if a developer comes in and he doesn't want to waste any money doing a purchase, he's gonna put a sewer system in. He's got over 10 acres. He wants to build 10 houses or 12 houses on that 10 acres, whatever it is. And he fully intends to put a sewer system in to treat that. And he's got a spot on the property that can take a sewer system. We're mandating them then to go out and spend money on perk tests for the whole piece of property.
Our subdivision control laws say that they have to show us an open space and conventional, they have to.
Well, what we're doing is we're mandating them to do something that's in another board's purview. Now,
No, not necessarily.
You're
totally missing the point.
No,
I think you need to illustrate this out and give everybody a visual example of how.
We
another
don't
board's
have to,
purview.
wait a sec, they don't have to do any perk test. The only time they have to do a perk test is if we had an issue and we didn't think it perked. If it looked like a beach out there and it's perfect, they
This-
don't have to perk it.
This
If-
says perk test.
They don't have to, it's up to us to decide whether or not we want them to go to the Board of Health and perk it, just to get a
So
number.
what troubles me is that somebody
Oh,
could
that's not
challenge
what they
this.
said.
Yes, it is. All right, I'll draw it for you. Okay. Okay, so we have
This should be good.
a 10-acre parcel, right? 10 acres. And the way it is right now is you can put 10 houses on there, 1-acre houses. Most developers want to squeeze them all into a small little section here, put their 10 houses here, and leave the rest in open space.
It's cheaper.
It's cheaper, there's less infrastructure, it's probably the better land, this is marginal, might have ledge in it and things like that. As it sits right now, we used to be able to ask them to perk, if we said, there's a big outcropping of ledge there, we want it perked, we want to see if it actually would hold a house lot. With what happened with Omni, and we all know there was a fair amount of ledge up at Omni, you could see it sticking out of the ground, we were not allowed to ask to see perks, because they had a shared system that bypassed the local Board of Health and bypassed us. We couldn't ask for perks, so we had to assume all 10 acres perked. This bylaw gives us the right to say, we want you to perk that over there. We don't have to ask them to perk at all. If everything else looks great, and we're comfortable with their calculation and everything else, then we can ask them just to perk certain areas, just like we did at Great Farm, just like we did everywhere else. That gives us that number 10. If they can't, and only 7 perk, that number goes down to 7, because that's all they could get on this 10-acre
So
parcel.
we're asking them to perk that.
If we think they need to perk it, no, they don't have to
Well,
perk it.
that's the point. We're requiring somebody that's coming before us.
We
with
have
an-
all
with an
along.
alternative method for
Great
dealing with
Farm.
their sewage.
Great Farm, we made
To
it work.
use another
Just for
board's
deter-
system.
Just for
My
determining.
God, this is not, you're not
It's
saying.
just for a number. It's just to get to this number. How
What's the
many houses
maximum?
could fit here? That's all it is. It's just to create it, because with these CAD systems now, you can put 10 houses on there. You can design it so 10 houses. We just want to know that 10 houses really could, in a perfect world, fit out there. That's all it
How do you
is.
find that
By
information?
having it perked by the
Okay.
local board of health.
And that's the Board of Health's purview. So we're
But we-
asking them to do something that another board.
Absolutely, we're
It's
sending it
not-
to the board of health, just like we have to send them to conservation to
Well-
make sure the wetlands that are in here are
But
fine.
what if the guy doesn't want to do it, he wants to
He
put
has to.
a sewer system in
Then
He can
has-
still put one in.
He can still put one in,
But
but
we're
he can only put
forcing
one in
him
for
to do
7.
perk tests, which he probably
Yeah.
never
I
would
said,
have
whoa,
done
whoa,
in
whoa,
the first place.
all right, you see, you're still missing the concept. It's not because he can't put a house on the lot that doesn't perk. It's just for purposes of determining how many lots
He can
he
get
can
in.
get out of the land.
I get that part.
But that's all it's
That's all
for.
it's for, it's all it's ever been.
We're forcing him to spend money that he wouldn't normally have to spend.
Gee,
if
I'm
he's gonna-
sorry, a developer has
if
to
he's
spend
gonna-
money to prove that he's actually
So how else
novel
you wanna do it?
concept.
And we're asking him to use another board's standard to prove to us.
Right now,
that
all
they
we
can-
ever had was
those
perk
lots can be
tests.
perked. Now, it's gonna get challenged.
It hasn't been challenged, it's been approved already.
I think
It's already gone to
It's
court.
already gone.
It's
Went to
smart.
court,
This is
town
smart.
council vetted it,
And if they-
I don't know what's.
All right, let's just move on.
Anyone else have any questions?
So,
All right, good.
Okay.
All right. Can I go home now?
yes,
Are you ready to close this public hearing?
I'm ready to close this public
And
hearing.
when do you want to schedule a vote on a recommendation to town meeting?
We want to do it after the meeting's over, we'll close it, we'll discuss it amongst ourselves, and we'll recommend whether to send it off to town meeting. It's gonna need 2/3 vote at town meeting?
No, 2/3 vote at town.
vote right now in open meeting.
All right, I don't care.
I say yes.
Well, they have to do it.
All right, I close the meeting. I'll entertain a motion to approve this, to send it to town meeting as written, so that how everyone understands it. Moved and seconded, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed?
The only reason I'm gonna say.
We're
aye
voting, yes or no? Come
is
on,
to-
sweet cheeks, get it over with.
Is to give the public a chance to give their.
They get
They
their,
get
they
their
get their vote
chance.
on town floor.
Yeah, they
And
can
leave
vote.
it up to
I'm
the
gonna
population
agree
instead of
with
us
the town
5.
floor. But I think it's gonna be
Are you
challenging.
saying yes or
No,
no,
it's
for the
not gonna be
record?
challenged.
Yes, for the record.
For the record, we got 5 yeses, move on.
All right, now that,
But then I think we do need to work with the Board of Health to make sure they fit.
I absolutely agree with
Go
you.
to
We're
the
not
next
trying to
one.
take their conditions
No.
away from them, we're just trying to send more work to them.
Right, right.
They're on commission,
We
right?
just need to integrate.
I totally agree, I totally, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you. Oh, we got the hard one out of the way, now we get to the easy one. We have an
You wanted to go home.
8:30 discussion with the Board of Selectmen, Conservation Commission, the Agricultural Commission, and other interested parties to discuss the possible extension of our recreational zoning bylaw. I want to first start by saying, we're not talking about any zoning articles that are before the town right now, or anything else like that. We want to talk about if and what we want to do to our extensive recreational bylaw. So, having said that, I'm gonna start, and I've talked to town council about our existing bylaw and where we're at with that, and what we need to talk about if we wanna go forward as far as that goes. Right now, we have a loose worded extensive recreational bylaw that's really about golf courses. 12 years ago, the Fletchers are really probably the only people that have used our extensive recreational bylaw to put in a tubing park. At that time, they came and said, you know, we own all this land, we want to preserve it, we need to come up with income to put in the tubing, to augment what we're doing out there. And the tubing park made perfect sense, gonna leave the rest of it in its natural condition. And the selectmen said, okay, the planning board did a site plan, and we said, okay, and that's where we're at. The bylaw as it sits right now, the definitions are weak as to what else you could put in there. You can, it's called a golf course under PGA standards and guidelines. That kind of limits what else you can do out there. I think if we're going to go down this road, we need to redefine what extensive recreation is gonna be, what we want from it, what uses we're gonna allow to it, what we're gonna do with the land that has to be left in its natural state in order for it to be an extensive recreational use. Things like that, and that's why I think we need guidance from the selectman's office, from conservation, from interested parties. This is not just one person gonna say how this is gonna go. There's a lot of people who wanna stir this pot to figure a better way to put it, and it's gonna take a lot of input from everybody to get it right. This is the, like I said, we've only had one, and if my memory serves me correctly, it was rushed through 30 years ago because the developer wanted to put a hotel and a golf course in, and that's why it was written the way it was. So we need to get this correct for all the other open space, big farm parcels that may wanna augment what they're doing with something from this, or what goes on with this in the future. I'm looking at you, Mr. Champion, because I kinda wanna get a feel from the selectmen as to, I mean, we had meetings months ago and everything else like that. I don't wanna start there, I wanna start with how you think, how the selectmen think this should, no, I wanna ask him first.
Well, maybe you want to decide who's the granting authority first, or that be?
No, I just wanna talk about what it goes there. We haven't even gotten to how we're gonna do all of this. This is just an informal discussion. There's a lot of people in the audience who wanna know what our thoughts are on it. My thoughts are that it's too loose as to what happens with the land that's left there. For 12 years, it's been left in its natural state. Now all of a sudden, well, we want something else. We wanna still have the tubing park, but we want something else. What other uses do we wanna put on there, and things like that. I think the boards have to, before we address a developer, the boards in the town have to have a good sense of what we wanna do out there before we're going in a million different directions. So I'd like to ask the selectmen.
Reader's Digest.
Reader's Digest version. So you're basically asking us to take a look at this with you
Absolutely.
and try to make it more fitting for the town of Littleton?
Yeah, it's just there's very little definition to it. There's no discussion about what happens to the open space. Do we want to conserve it in perpetuity to, as farmland, or as agriculture, as recreational? What do we do with that open space component? Because let's face it, the only reason we're even discussing putting a commercial entity on a residential parcel is the town has to have a benefit from it, and we've all decided that preserving as much farmland and open space in its natural state is what should be the goal of this, unless I'm missing something. And that's the other thing, we should also have a purpose to that extensive recreation. There's really no written purpose to it, it's just a definition of what it is and that kind of stuff.
The planning board wrote this, correct? Or was this done through, what I don't know is whether it was.
I think you guys must have wrote it. I've only been on here 20 years, and it was before my
your
time.
Certainly long before my time.
And I think it was written because there was a developer wanted to put a golf course in a hotel in up by, I think it was Nordboom's old property. And that's what they wanted to do, and that's why it was rushed through. We don't really know where it came from. Yeah, nobody really knows. But that's, basically, if you look at it, that's what it talks about, a golf course. All right, so it's a golf course. It's 200 acres left in its natural state as a golf course with a clubhouse over here, a bunch of holes that nobody ever hits accurately, and the rest of it left is if in fact it is a golf course. So what I'm saying is, in order to start going somewhere forward with it, we have to define what we want it to be. And what we want to allow for uses, on it. So that's kind of why, I think why everyone's here, not to rush through a bylaw that is, we have to do it right the first time. And there's a lot of moving parts to this that we need to get nailed down. So
I'd like to get some input from our board members as well. Thoughts to this, is this something you think is a good idea to move forward with?
Well, the big change is the 5 to 10%. That's the change, essentially. Right?
And the use.
And the use, and what's allowed there. I mean,
The use and the 10%.
well, it's really more than 5 to 10% though, when you think about it.
Why? 5% to 10% is 5% increase.
No, I'm not talking about percentage, is what they're proposing. Right now, the way the thing is left, the Fletchers need a modification to the special permit to do anything else out there, because the way they've got it is like a golf course. There's 200 acres or 100 acres out there with limited use in one spot, and all the rest is left in its natural state, just like the golf course would be. So there is no 5 or 10% right now. The point I'm trying to get at is when you go forward from this now on, we're gonna define what's allowed out there, not just a tubing park. There's gonna be other things, and what you're gonna augment.
Those
it with.
uses.
But right now, there are no uses out there. Only thing allowed out there is a golf course.
Okay.
That's the only thing allowed out there, left in its natural state.
I don't know if that's
I read
right.
the
Yes,
definition.
that's right.
Residential
Just so everyone knows.
Let him read the
Yeah.
definition.
Or like houses instead.
Extensive recreation is a term that's defined in the zoning booklet, and it's fairly short, so it's ambiguous. But I'll read it to you just so everyone's on the same page. Extensive recreation. Golf courses laid out substantially in accordance with the usual requirements or specifications of the United States Golf Association, ski areas, and other recreational uses of similar nature, which primarily use and preserve open space, together with clubhouses and pertinent accessory facilities, whether or not operated for profit. Such appurtenant facilities may include provisions for recreational activities not directly connected with the use of open space, provided that in no event shall structures occupy more than 5% of a lot area. That's all it says.
So that's,
Okay.
right. So you don't have,
So the change that I saw was increased it to 10%. Okay? And the definition of the uses, tightening up what the actual uses are. That's what we're talking about in the change in the bylaw.
Well, not tightened, they would get to use some commercial and some office space.
Uses.
Would be included in that 5 or 10%.
That's not in there.
No.
That's not in there now.
And quite
Okay,
remove the
but
open
there's,
space.
that's why the change in the bylaw, that's what we're talking about,
Right,
is
that's
the
what I
actual
want to.
change in the bylaw.
But we have to do a lot more than just saying we're gonna go to 10%, or we're gonna go to 8%, or whatever. We have to start from the beginning of the bylaw and fix it. We have to list what kind of uses are allowed in that, you know?
If I could, Mark, ask our board as well as our board, do you see a benefit in pursuing something like this? Because it is a way of preserving an awful lot of land. Because in the future, we don't know what's gonna happen to other farmlands. Hopefully, they always stay farmland, but they don't.
That's exactly my point, right there.
All right, but the point I'm trying to make is that I wanna make sure people realize that there are benefits that are gonna come down the road, even on the Fletcher's property. And to be honest, they've been pretty patient people. Because I was one of the ones that asked them 4 years ago, I think it was, the town would work with them. But set that aside, I think wording of this can be very beneficial to town coming up. Even though you have a large parcel, you might have a commercial entity to it. It's a good chance that we're saving a lot of land, and it'll take away the risk of having a bunch of houses right along the road that would lose our vistas that we're all trying to save.
I agree with you, I'm just trying to say there's a lot of pieces to this that we have to get finished in order for this to even have a chance to pass at town meeting. I just don't wanna rush through and do it haphazard. I wanna make sure we take all this, because I agree, there's a lot of other pieces of land, other than just the Fletchers, that A, could benefit from this, or might be at risk, and there's a possible way that we can save those as well. That's all I'm trying to say, just by adding 5% is not gonna wave a magic wand and get this to work. That's all I'm trying to say.
Townwide.
It's
Affects
townwide.
a lot.
So I guess, very general statement, you do agree that there is a.
I do agree. Absolutely. Absolutely. When we sat down with the Fletchers in November and came up with a conceptual idea, I thought that worked really great. I just want to take what we had talked about and how we talked about it and translate it to everything else in the town and tighten it up so that we're not making a tubing park fit like a golf course, so that it's allowed. The soccer, an indoor soccer facility, a health club, all those things that we all want are going to be an allowed use that doesn't kind of look like it. Maybe it does, it's gonna be an allowed use. All I'm saying is we have to start from the beginning of the bylaw and work our way forward.
Well, it says appurtenant facilities. Are those in conjunction with the clubhouse and the buildings needed to maintain a golf course? Is that what that means?
It refers to the clubhouse as secondary,
Well, that's-
accessory.
Well, let me ask you this.
wait a minute. Nature primarily used to preserve open space, together with clubhouses and appurtenant facilities, whether or not operated for profit. Okay, so there's that one there, if you take it by itself, can open it up to other buildings.
But
It doesn't necessarily mean buildings that are required to keep
I
the
think-
golf course running.
But I think we get rid of the golf cart part of it.
Yeah,
and
well, I
start-
mean, that's what it says now, so what we're trying to do
Right.
is make something that's gonna, one, give them, and not just them in particular, other people in town,
The right to
what they
do-
need to do in order to preserve the open space for the town, give them a chance to make a profit off their property, because they can turn around and build houses, they can put a sewage treatment plant in, da-da-da-da-da-da,
Right,
and it's all houses and the open space is gone.
but we should, exactly.
So,
we
so
have
what
to-
you're saying, right, is what we need to have better wording as to what the other pieces of the property can be developed and in what fashion
And
can
what
they
we
be developed.
call it, we're calling it a golf course.
Well,
It's not a golf
that's all
course.
crap, so get rid of that right now anyways and be done with it.
Okay, all right, then.
Golf course can be left into it, but it's like another facility, soccer fields, football fields, lacrosse, basketball, field hockey.
Right.
What are all the other, baseball, softball, football, da-da-da-da, you know, anything to do with a ball. Go in there.
Why did I ask you? I should have stopped at the map.
Well, I've heard the same story 8 times over since I've been sitting here now, so let's figure out what's the right word.
And that's right, so it's gonna take time for us all to sit down and all to get the wordage right and get the definitions right and get what we want townwide. That's what I'm trying to say. This is the first meeting, this is the first meeting we've had jointly with the selectmen and anyone else that's interested in this since this issue has been brought up. I just wanna get everybody on the same page so that we can all work together and come
Okay.
up with something.
Did Mr. Duchesne rewrite one? Did he write something
He
different?
talked about percentages, that's all. He didn't talk about what happens with the open
The verbiage,
space.
do you have something that you wrote up that shows verbiage for what this extended use is? What you
No,
included in
wait,
it?
no, time out, I'm not even gonna go there, no, this is still about, wait, no.
No, I wanna know if he has something
He
written
has, you
already
have.
that I haven't read.
You had it last week, it was in last week's bylaw, it was in last week, 2 weeks ago's paperwork. You had all of that. Yeah, you did, you should have read it.
And it was in a letter I wrote in
Yeah, it was
August
a letter.
of last year.
This is more about finding out from the different boards in the town and the different residents in the town,
Okay.
how we wanna go forward.
Mr. Chairman, have we discussed with MAPC when they were working on Area C and the extensive recreation, did they have any
Yeah,
recommendations?
we have letters from Mark Ransicott as to what the densities were, changing it from 5% to 10%, what that would do, and things like that.
Okay.
All right, so it gives us an idea of how much.
And is that a framework that we can work with, or?
Yeah, it is something we can work with.
And the focus is extensive recreation.
Extensive recreation.
Golf course is extensive recreation.
So
Ski
they
is
talk,
extensive
did
recreation.
MAPC talk about what the extensive recreation uses?
No, we
Or
didn't.
or
We
they
didn't.
just talked about percentages, right?
Percentages, that's why I think as a town, we need to decide, if you're gonna do an extensive recreation, what recreational facility, or what things are you gonna allow in there? How much of it can be retail to augment the extensive recreation? Do you consider a health club extensive recreation? Do you consider, what part does a restaurant play in it? Those are all components that are gonna be decided or not decided as part of what's going on in there. Is the town gonna get control of the land to leave it in its natural state so that the town gets a benefit from it? Is it gonna go to Park and Rec to put ball fields in? Is it gonna stay, or are we gonna get the agricultural use out of it so that maybe it's the owner still own it, but the town gets to use the land from an agricultural? None of those are addressed. We don't know what happens to that land and what benefit the town gets from all of a sudden saying, we're basically rezoning this property from a residential farming component to allow commercial development of it at whatever percentage. We don't know what happens to the rest of the land after that. That's what we need to decide as a town, how we want it, and what entity is gonna control it, or how it's gonna be controlled, and what we're gonna put on it.
Yeah, and
Which we've never sat down and discussed, that's all I'm trying to say. Just changing percentage doesn't do us any good, because we haven't really wrestled with the idea of what we want to put on there, and what we
Changing
want it to look
percentage
like.
doesn't hurt,
Doesn't hurt, but it's.
but it's
not-
what are they gonna
it's
put
not-
in?
Exactly.
But I think the real question, if it's completely unrelated, commercial stuff completely unrelated, why it's in this bylaw, you know? I mean, when we changed the farming bylaw, it allowed some retail that was related to farming.
Right, and that's
If it's
the other
completely
part we have to look
unrelated,
at.
then maybe it's a separate bylaw.
Are we
Or
gonna
maybe
increase the
separate
farming bylaw to allow more uses that would help augment the extensive recreation so that the farmers could do more things with that? So do we wanna look at it from that standpoint as opposed to the extensive recreation? We haven't all sat down in a room and kicked it around and figured out what's best for the town of Littleton.
See, Mark, can I speak?
Sure.
Yeah, I think maybe our chairman is making it a little more complicated than it sounds.
Cut to the chase.
The whole first section of this bylaw, the bylaw amendment, is just a repetition of what we already have in our bylaw. And it's, even though it's specifically targeted for golf courses, that could be fixed by just saying, and other recreational uses, number one. Number two, the second part of this bylaw refers to the same 5% that the first part of the bylaw refers to in terms of housing such structures for the recreational component. Then there's an additional sentence that talks about adding a 5% component for a commercial use. Now, that 5% is the 5% that allows this whole bylaw to be different than it was before in terms of introducing a commercial component in an area that otherwise wouldn't have one. But by introducing that 5% commercial component, what you end up with is preserving the rest of the property, or open space, or commercial, or open space, or undeveloped use. Now, to me, that's a good thing in terms of benefit for the town, as opposed to houses that would be the alternative. This gives anybody in town with a large piece of land some options that they don't have today. And it also gives them a carrot, would you, so to speak, to go that route in terms of
Yeah, that makes sense.
commercial, and in terms of open space and recreational use, as opposed to building houses.
It's not about just building houses, it's about
But what this is
what
then-
happens to the land.
Yeah,
Who gets the
there are
land?
really two concerns here.
What do you mean?
It's just
Who
a
gets
sentence
the
that
land?
is added
This
onto
guy
it.
real hard,
Jerry,
real hard time.
hey,
for that.
Jerry,
Who gets whose land?
Hey.
They own the land.
Right.
You can put a CR restriction on it. They still own the land.
Right.
We don't get the land.
We haven't figured out yet what we want, how we want the land that's supposed to be left in its natural state, what we want to do with it.
It could be no different than what Omni did when they put a CR restriction on it.
No, it is gonna be different, Omni
How
has,
is it different?
because in order for them to get a
Town of
commercial,
Littleton didn't get that open space. They gave me to another entity.
this is not about, this is not an open space plan. This is a plan that's gonna go from a residential component to have some sort of commercial. And in order for it to have some sort of commercial and be a benefit to the town, there has to be something for the town out of it, whether we would preserve.
Open space.
But open, yeah, but how does it, who gets it?
But it doesn't necessarily have to be open space to
It has,
the town.
it could be open space to the town, it could be.
They can keep it and keep paying taxes on it.
They could keep it and
That's
take.
But it's
right.
open
They
space.
give the
That's
town-
right.
They can keep it and give the town the farming rights to do it, they can keep
There
it.
are there's no other bylaw that we have, special permit or otherwise, which compels any landowner to give any land to the town of Littleton.
Absolutely there is, if we do an open space, it has to be, it has to be.
Not to the town of Littleton.
It gotta be to some entity, as it is
Right,
right
but
now.
not to the town of Littleton.
As it is right now, the town of Littleton gets no benefit from taking residential and agricultural land out of their mix and giving, and letting commercial be developed. There should be a component in
Because
there.
it's implicit in the bylaw that if it's CR restricted, they can't build
It
on it
doesn't say
anymore
that.
anyways.
It doesn't
Or-
say
Or
that.
they give it to another entity, they can't build on it anyway.
It doesn't say that. It
It's
doesn't,
implicit
it
in
isn't
the bylaw.
implicit.
It is too.
No, it isn't. It doesn't say what they can do
Can't
with the
develop beyond that
Mark,
point.
the component that
But-
goes with this, that everybody's missing, is it's access only through special permit, which can be denied by right if we choose to decide if it doesn't fit well within the neighborhood.
That's why you have to start from the bylaw and make it so it doesn't fit well. It has to fit or it doesn't fit. It has to, all our bylaws that we've always done are specific to what we're looking to do. This is too ambiguous
Right.
to sit there and have, you're shoehorning things in that don't work.
90% of this.
You gotta
is-
start from scratch.
Is what we have on the regulation.
Yeah,
right
and-
now.
And it's a poor regulation, that's what I'm trying to say. It was done 30 years ago to put a golf course in. That's not a golf course, and what we're proposing out there is not a golf course. If you're gonna do it right, start from scratch, define what it's gonna be, how you're gonna do it, what the percentages are, and what you're gonna do with the land when it's left in its natural state. Are you going to take the development rights and give them, sell them to the town so it never gets developed, and we farm it? You're gonna leave it as open space, you're gonna zone it to conservation? What are you gonna do with it? None of that's spelled out in it. Just putting 5 or 10% is not gonna solve what that bylaw should have done 30 years ago. That's all I'm trying to say. You have a chance to fix it now, really, instead of piece of crap, the town meeting and ask 2/3 of the people to vote on a piece of crap. Do it right the first time. That's it, that's all I'm trying to say. And if you think I'm wrong, the 4 of you vote and say, yeah, let's send whatever we want to the town. I'm saying, you start with a clean piece of paper, you write all the definitions, you write what you want to accomplish at the end of it, and how it's gonna affect everybody in the town of Littleton, and that's how you go, rather than put a half-assed piece and ask 2/3 of the people in town who aren't gonna understand it in the first place to vote for it. That's all I'm trying to say. And if I didn't explain it 15 minutes ago, I apologize.
And, yeah, what Rich was saying was that it's just a little extra added. The first part is,
It's a small commercial component.
wait, let me talk.
to-
Rich,
Preserve.
let's have one person talk at a time. The first part is ambiguous, as you mentioned, and you're assuming there's protection. There's no protection in there. It talks about golf course, talks about extensive outdoor recreation. Then it talks about pertinent things that's related to recreation, and, yeah, that can be clubhouses, et cetera. So that's a little bit, what's added on in the sentence is completely out of the ballpark. It's putting a whole different class of things in, such as commercial aspects, and the examples are given are office parks, restaurants, and retail stores. It has nothing to do with recreation, not even remotely related. Maybe that should be a separate bylaw if someone wants it, or just separate zoning. I mean, I think the first part needs to be clear as to what it is. The part you mentioned is, as proposed in this article in the town warrant, is a sentence that essentially removes it completely out of anything to do with recreation. It really doesn't belong together. So even though it's one sentence, it has really sort of a amazing effect. But
Well,
as
I
you said
reject
before,
that whole
Jared, and as,
They don't go together.
as you're saying that, we're not really looking at this particular article, you're looking at the article, but if you look at the article, it's that last sentence has nothing to do with the first part.
Well, wait,
which
why
is the
don't
sense
they?
of
Why
recreation.
don't they? Why don't they?
Because it has nothing to do with recreation.
If I put a cell phone tower on farmland to create extra revenue, does one have anything to do with the other?
If we're doing extensive recreation bylaws, it should have some relationship.
It's commercial activity to support the primary use. It's additional commercial activity. It's not primary, it's supportive. Doesn't mean that it has to be related to sports. It means it helps sustain the economics of the development.
Yeah, but I think.
Which is one of the things we're supposed to be considering when we look at these developments. If it's not viable, and they build it anyways, and it goes out of business, now you have an empty building.
But would you rather have empty space with nothing on it than put something up that's not viable? That's why we
Look,
need to sit down
And
and
here's
figure
the
out
other,
what's
here's the other
viable.
issue I have with all this. Nothing that we're talking about solves the issue of what we're really trying to do, which is preserve the frontage, the view on the road, which is the farmland we're talking about, not the rest of the land that goes down the hill. that
That's why
nobody
we
can
have
see.
to, we start from ground zero and start all over
But
again.
that would imply that in this bylaw, you would be able to dictate the location of the building.
Absolutely. We have, there's nothing in there that tells us what we can do. There's nothing in there that tells us we have to preserve the farmland
But we
component of
don't
this.
have any bylaws
We
that
can.
compel the location of buildings.
We can if we start from scratch and do it that way. If we take the land that's on the major road that has scenic vista and we want to preserve it, we put it in the bylaw.
We have
Then
that.
we start from behind that.
But we do have
We
that-
have nothing in this thing right now that
We
says
have it in
that.
open space.
But this isn't an open space bylaw.
I
This is
know,
gonna be an
it
extensive
is. I know it's
recreation.
not. I'm just
That's
saying,
why
you
I'm
would
saying-
have to be able to control the location.
That's what we'd have
of
to
the
put in the
building.
bylaw. Putting in a 5 or 10% doesn't control the fact fact that they could go right to the road right now. Well, no, we can't.
Through the special.
No, you can't. No, you can't.
There's no methodology there.
This special permit says that it's supposed to be a golf course. Let me ask you a question. If they come back and say, okay, we have 100 acres here, and we're using it for the tubing ponds, okay? We want to take 50 of it out right now, and then we're gonna do something with the rest of it. They have a special, wait, no, okay. They have 100 acres right now, and they're saying that 100 acres is kind of like a golf course. We have an extensive use over here.
Yeah, I get it.
The rest is left in its natural state.
Yeah.
The bylaw says it's got to kind of look like a golf course. So it means it should be about 100 to 200 acres in perpetuity for it to be a golf course. The golf course is that big. That's my point. Okay?
They only wanna take 5 to 10% of that.
I'm not
land.
talking about that. I'm saying, Richard's saying that a special permit, we can do whatever we want. We have a
So
special.
we can't do whatever we
Special
want.
permit gives us the, they
That's
can
it.
only be access to a special permit, and that gives us the right to say no.
Okay,
And it
right?
also gives us the right to say, we want something different.
It doesn't
It gives some
It
flexibility.
absolutely
We
does.
need to start from, my point is this, we need to start from scratch with the selectmen, conservation, the people who want to preserve the farmland in the town, although we need all of them on board, talking about it together. 5 of us aren't gonna solve it, and it's not gonna work if just us try to do it. That's all I'm trying to say. We need to take all those components into it, and just putting a 5 or 10% helter-skelter, they can put it wherever they want, as long as they're within the 5 or 10% doesn't solve anything, because they can take the best 5 to 10% right in the street and leave the rest of its field in its natural state, and what good would that do? We lost the scenic vistas and everything else that this bylaw is trying to preserve. We lost everything just by going with 5 or 10%, they can do it anywhere. Am I right or am I wrong?
This bylaw can work absolutely fine. We
How
leave
can-
it
how can-
leave it alone.
Tell me how
Let
you
it
can
move
stop them
forward the way it is.
tell me how you can stop them from putting it in the front field, right now.
Do the special permit process.
They can say, no, we want, this is where we want to put it.
I can read you the section that says, if it's unfit for the neighborhood, we can deny it.
What neighborhood? There is no neighborhood there, it's a farm. You can't, you're not gonna stand it, you keep worrying about whether it's not gonna stand up to scrutiny.
You need
The
some
point is,
guidelines.
You need guidelines in it, you need definitions, starting and just throwing 10% out there and saying, oh, that's a Band-Aid fix to a bylaw that's way too important to be doing it with that.
Maybe we should get some clarity on that.
We need some clarity on the whole thing.
We should get some clarity on the special permit part. If they can deny based on that, then it's valid.
I am
Valid
right.
points.
We don't know, it'd have to go to court, the people in the little black robes would have to tell us if we're right or wrong.
Town
We don't wanna
council
do
will
it.
weigh in on that.
I asked town council a very easy question about this. It's called, and I asked him today, it's in under being a golf course. And the question I was trying to get to Rich that he wasn't gonna answer was, it's 100 acres right now and it's a golf course. The golf course is 100 to 200 acres, maybe even more than that. If they said, okay, we're gonna take 50 of that and leave that with the tubing park and we're gonna develop the rest 50, do they need a new special permit for it?
The state of Massachusetts.
I'm asking
The
you-
person who writes these laws for the state of Massachusetts at Holy Cross last year, when I asked him that direct question, are special permits disputable? His answer was no. He says you can deny by right. And so I went back and I looked at our bylaws.
This is already a special
And
permit.
this actually gives us more than just denied by right. We have reasons, like I said, if it doesn't fit the neighborhood, we can decide if it doesn't fit the
I'm
neighborhood.
asking you a very simple question. If he takes half of this land, takes it off and says, we're gonna develop this no matter what, here's our 50 acres with our tubing park, we still want our special permit for it. Do you think they still have a special permit for it? Or do they have to modify that special permit? I'm asking a really simple question.
But Mark, that's a function of the existing permit, which no one's had the ability to look at and read. You started this meeting by saying we were gonna discuss a bylaw and whether it's a good thing and whether we should change the bylaw and how, and now you've turned it into, well, the Fletchers already have a special permit, now they're gonna take some of that, and do they need a new? That's not why we're here, you said it yourself.
And I agree, all right, then I won't ask Richard. I just wanted to see where Richard stood on it. That's fine, I agree with you 100%. What we're trying to do is get input from the residents and the selectmen to see what's the next step in this process. That's all I'm trying to do. And what I'm trying to say is that we need to start from the scratch, not just add your 10% and make it subject to a special permit. We need to know what's gonna happen to the ultimate disposition of the land, who's gonna control it, how it's gonna be left, where it's gonna go, what kind of offsets. We need way more than your Band-Aid approach to what we have for an open space right now. In
Well,
order for
I wouldn't
this-
call it a Band-Aid approach, first of all. Secondly, I have to agree with Mr. Knox. We've had 4 years to do
No.
this, and it didn't get done. It didn't get done until I did it and submitted this and
No,
asked
we
you to
didn't.
consider.
Time out. You met with us, we had meetings with it, you showed us plans and everything
Yeah.
else, we all sat there and talked about it. Now we want to
And
take what
for
we
the reason we went through that plan was because you wanted to see, and the people that we met with wanted to see, what would your change from 5 to 10% mean in real life? Show us what it would mean on the Fletcher property. And we went through that and we went through it. And we showed you the first plan. The first thing you guys said was, we don't like that because you put buildings in the agricultural land, which is what we're trying to preserve with this bylaw. So we moved them over here. Well, that's good, but could you do this? We went through how many iterations? And what you did is you showed me what, if the bylaw were approved, what you would want the project to look like.
Right.
Now, your point is that, yeah, that's great, but once we pass the bylaw, Doug, you're gonna bring back the first plan that we didn't like, and there's nothing we can do about it.
But it's not just you.
That's
What
where I
about-
disagree.
what about
It is a
everybody else?
special permit.
No,
And the permit has 6 standards that say it has to be consistent with the purpose and intent of the bylaw, has to be consistent with the neighborhood. I'm sure Richard could read you the other 4. But I know for a fact you have a lot of power, and if I brought you a project under the new bylaw that was absolutely horrible, you think this board's gonna say, hey, our hands are tied, we have to approve it? No, you're gonna say, move that building over to there, get rid of this, be consistent with the purpose and the intent of the bylaw.
Exactly, and that's why we have to write the purpose and intent of the bylaw. As it is right now, the purpose and intent is vague at best, and it talks about a golf course. We have to start from
Now,
scratch.
come on, Mark, it says golf course, ski areas, and other recreational facilities of similar nature, which primarily use and preserve open space.
Okay.
So,
We need more.
well, I added more.
How much more of that do you need?
Well, we added quite a bit more.
Anyway,
No, how?
Mr. Knox. Go ahead, yeah.
I want to speak after him.
You do.
You know, what's obvious here is, the first thing, there's some misunderstanding of what the bylaw says. And I think that speaks to where you want to go, because, hey, we got a 30-year bylaw. There's nobody in this room that remembers why, the factors, the what for, the hows, or anything in this bylaw. That tells us right there we have to overhaul the bylaw. And if you look at what we did when we did the extension to the farms, and when we did the overlay planning, we looked specifically at what the community wanted and what was compatible with it. And I think that should be consistent with what we look at here. I think we should say, well, this is the kind of thing that does work. We're talking a specific definition here, extensive recreation bylaw, okay? We need to define that. In essence, I'm agreeing with you, that we need to define that. Because we're trying to fix up a 30-year-old thing that nobody remembers why it was created. And I don't think it's that much more work to say, well, we'd like this, we'd like that. We have planning documents that went through the entire process with the consultant that helped us identify a lot of this. A lot of this stuff is done. And I think we could probably all agree, hey, we've got to take a second look at this thing, not just by changing a few numbers and a few words, but making it a modern bylaw.
Exactly, thank you. Mr. Knox.
Now, I'm going to say something maybe the Fletchers don't want to hear, Mr. Duchesne, but and this is not from the Board of Selectmen, this is my personal feeling, is that if we don't extend this, then it won't get past town meeting. I just don't see it happening. But what I would want to do with the Board of Selectmen and the planning board, I would like to set a timetable so they know exactly, whether it's the end of summer, I don't want to have to wait another 2 years. If we can set a timeline that says by August 31st of 2013, these two committees will get together, write an extensive bylaw down, and get the input and everything, but I want a timetable. I don't want this to go, if we could do something
But
like
it's gotta
that.
be more than just us. We need the farmland preservation people in here, we need We need some interested citizens who wanna be on it too. We need all of us to sit down together.
Just like what we went through with Area A, B,
Right.
and C.
I agree. You wanna set a table of, we meet every 2 weeks? I'd be available to do that if you wanna work on that, and you wanna do it informally, formally, what do you wanna handle? Do you wanna handle it as a
Well,
board meeting?
first, we have to get some feedback from the Fletchers. But as far as the town goes, I'm willing to do it once every 2 weeks to get this done, to get the input so it's worded properly, because in my opinion, having consulted with the board of selectmen, in my opinion, if this went forward at town meeting, because there's too many things that can be brought up, this is this is that, it's not gonna work, I don't think you're gonna get 2/3 of a vote.
I agree. Do you wanna do that, Doug? I guess the point we're both trying to make is, it's not gonna make this spring's town meeting. If we agree to all work on it together to get it for the fall town meeting,
Mark, that's a tough question to ask me, and it's a really tough question to ask the Fletchers. When we had this discussion 4 years ago, we had this discussion 3 years ago, we went through the whole Area C thing for over a year working, and then at the end, you know what, we don't have time for Area C, and we change our mind, Area C gets dumped. And then we met after that even, we had meetings, Mark, I think I think it was your suggestion, and it's a good one, that we look to working the extensive recreational bylaw to provide options to landowners like the Fletcher. I mean, one of the things you said at the beginning is this bylaw gives the town, it gives landowners more options that ultimately result in the preservation of land and the creation of recreational facilities. Two things I think this town really supports.
and I agree with you, Doug, but it's gotta be done right.
So we did that. Mark, I'm saying it hasn't been done right, and you're asking me, can we do it right? It's been 4 years. There's no denying that, okay? And in October, November, when we met, we had all those meetings. Some of you guys were there.
Right.
We all agreed, this is what we'll do, is we'll change this bylaw to potentially allow for some minimum commercial activity that would support these recreational activities, which historically struggle as a standalone entity. Without the other appurtenant facilities that the ski area has, the ski area doesn't survive. It needs the summer programs, it needs the tube park, needs the tiki bar, it needs the restaurant, this pro shop. And look around at your other recreational facilities in this area of the country. It's the same is true. These standalone hockey rinks or standalone facilities are struggling,
First
okay?
3 people lose their shirt, and the last guy buys it for nothing, and he makes
Right.
it work. So,
The
But-
point is,
Wait, wait, wait.
the point is,
Why don't we just ask him this? If we go to floor now and you lose, right?
Yeah.
And we don't agree to work on this, so it doesn't, so you go lose, it dies. We're not working on it, no one's
Okay.
talking about it, it's over.
Sure.
Or we work on it, you get something in by October, and he has a chance of winning, and everybody gets what they want.
doesn't that make more sense? And
I mean, because we can.
Yeah, but
we
you're
can also-
actually gonna work with us, because going through what we've gone through with you guys for 4 years, come on, Mark, you were there.
You were there for a zoning change. When you first started here, it was a zoning change for the whole land. That's what started it.
And then we went back, and we tried,
And we were told
and we
if we
tried to go
withdrew,
back, and
the
we
town
said
would
we
work
would
with
work with you.
Right, and then we started to work with you, and then we got busy with the Omni thing, and I apologize. Now is the time.
But 4 years?
What
Come
happened to
on.
Area C?
Well,
We did it as farming preservation. We changed it.
It's worth getting an answer to that, and it keeps on coming out, and it keeps getting answered, and then people raise again. When we worked at that area, Area C, we worked hard with it, we worked with Mark Rassicott, planner for
I know, I was
MAPC.
there.
So was
Well,
I.
You asked what happened to it, and we developed the extension to the farm bylaw, which allows related retail, related commerce
All the
to
farmers,
support
not
it.
just Area C. That's what
And
we
then we
did.
decided it shouldn't just be Area C, it should be town-wide. There was a very good outcome from it, but you decide, okay, you
But
don't
we're
want to
not
do farming.
farmers.
Well, but that is what we worked with.
Unfortunately, you bought a farm.
No, we bought
No,
residential
we bought
zoned
residentially zoned land, is what we bought, or what my
And
clients
right now,
bought.
for 12 years, you've had a commercial entity on that residentially zoned land.
A part of it, yes.
Yes.
And some farming, and it was mentioned that even though you don't want to do farming, you could lease it out for farming. So there wasn't,
So
I guess-
we've been in this circle for 4 years, guys. If you
Well-
don't want to do this, you don't want to support the bylaw,
We do.
then the town has lost a tremendous opportunity, not only for a great project, but to preserve a lot of land.
We're asking you to sit down with us and get it right. the
Don't, you
first
can't
time.
ask me. You need to ask these
Ask
people.
them, we
Look, can
need more
I'd
time
like
in
to
this
make a
town meeting.
But
suggestion.
then you've switched it to
Mark?
extensive recreation.
I'd like to make a
That's like your-
suggestion here. I'd like to make a suggestion that the biggest difference between what they're proposing right now and what we have is an additional 5% commercial. That is it. Here's my-
Did you read it?
here's
Yes,
my-
and I
here's
saw
my
the map.
recommendation.
I'm listening.
My recommendation is that we support this, we get this passed. Well, this is, we put this on the floor. If this, hopefully it will pass a town meeting. In the meantime, we work on an additional bill that will.
You can only have one,
that can-
Richard.
that
You
can-
can't have two bites at the apple.
If you already have a problem, you
Go
don't
all
come
over
with
that, you're in, you're
And
done.
then we work on another bill that
No,
we can put in
you
the
gotta
fall.
do it right the first time. It hasn't been done right the first time. I'm all for working and getting it done right.
Well, this-
And taking 2 weeks, go every 2 weeks with whoever from the selectmen wanna meet with the Fletchers and go and have something good for fall
See,
town meeting.
The-
What's the problem with waiting till fall town meeting?
See, what I see is stonewalling.
It isn't
It's been
stonewalling.
stonewalling for the
It
past
has
4
not.
years, and it's continued. And this is just an excuse for continued stonewalling.
It's not stonewalling, it's getting the job done right. We did farmland preservation before
Then
that.
why weren't you working with them in November when they came back to you with some
We
language?
had this little thing called Omni in front of all of us, you know, we were kind of busy with that, Richard, you know, that was the biggest thing that
this
ever
is
come
a
to this
five-
town.
It doesn't negate their right to due process either, though, because we're busy with other things.
They-
Well,
they-
wait a minute.
Why, did they ask to be on
They
our board?
did,
Just
we talked
wait a
about it in
minute.
November, then we didn't hear about it till all of a sudden, February, we started back up again, you know?
If you guys agreed, and you agreed, that by August 1st, we have down and on paper, a good bloody bylaw that will work, preserve open space, perhaps the 5% more into it so that they can support their property, and August 1st, we're done. So then October at town meeting, they're happy with it, you're happy with it, we're happy with it, but August 1st is the deadline that it's done. If not, then there should be some form of remuneration for them for going, well, they're sitting there getting their hands tied the entire time. We're trying to develop a small part, getting a big part, and get the word right, which you want,
Yeah,
and the town wants, and you guys want to be able to do what you can and support what you want to build, correct? Along with everyone else who's going to come down the path later. Would you be willing to wait to work till August 1st as a deadline to have it done, meeting every 2 weeks?
You don't have anything.
I don't think it's fair to put these guys on
I don't think it's
that
fair
kind of
either,
pressure.
but if you
And
go
right
in
now,
for the
they
town
want an
meeting with
answer
this
without
one,
talking
I don't
about it,
think it'll
thinking about
pass.
it in light of what we've been through.
I
But
don't
if
think
you
the
wanna
Attorney
go in front of
General
town
would
meeting,
pass this.
I would only agree to that if the same people weren't at the table, that have been at the table for the past 4 years, that other board members are the ones that negotiate this.
We'll let them pick
well,
who
we're
they
talking
want.
about here, Richard, are you saying I've been dragging my feet on this? I'm the one who met with them, I'm the one who involved them.
I've been saying you've been stonewalling
I
them
haven't been
for 4 years,
stonewalling, I
yes.
met with the Fletchers, I've met with Doug, he got my input
Is
on
that fair to
everything we
you?
did.
You asked me a question, I gave you
And
an
I'm
answer.
telling you right to your face, I didn't
August 1st.
stonewall it, I met with
I'll
them.
talk to them about it, but we're not gonna give you an answer now.
Well, then,
My mother's not here, okay? So she needs to know what's
well,
going
you know,
on too.
I don't
let's
think
open this up,
this
I wanna
way
hear the
it's written
public, the
now.
public came out to.
We're
to
not
hear
making a
this.
decision right now.
No,
Yes,
I-
ma'am.
That's what I think written better will be work.
Jen Stack, Bulkley Road. First of all, I want to recognize that there are a lot of people in this room who really care a lot about Littleton, and that goes for the boards that are here and the citizens that are here. And I think that that speaks well for the future of this town. We are at the crux of our 300th anniversary. We are standing at a crossroads with regards to development in this town, and we have had a couple of projects that have come through that have maybe not gone as everyone would want. And I am here to encourage this board and the other boards related to this situation to take it slow. We do not get a second chance. When we build something in a field, it is built forever. It never goes back to being a field. We have a chance to be measured, deliberate, and considered when we make these big decisions, not about just one property, we all acknowledge that making a change in the bylaws applies to the entire town, in theory. And I do not think this is something that we can hammer out in the next 5 weeks. The bylaw, as it's written right now, I can tell you right now, it's not going to pass at town meeting. It will not pass, and it will become much more fractious than if a well-reasoned, deliberate, well-thought-out bylaw is brought to the town with the support of all boards and a number of private citizens. Thank you.
John Coughlin Road. After listening to everything, I think that I agree with you, Mark, I agree with Don. This is too ambiguous. We have to slow it down, we have to go back to the drawing board, rewrite it. It's too loose, and I couldn't agree with you more, and that's my opinion. Thank you.
Vera?
Vera Cohen, Newtown Road. I think one of the important things when you write a bylaw is to make sure that no matter who is in the seat of the planning board, that they will be able to read it and read it in the same way as you might. I think you can say, yeah, we're going to decide what's good for the town, as Ron Crowley said, but depends on who's in those seats. And you want a bylaw that is tight enough so that no matter who is in those seats, it's going to get interpreted pretty much the same way. And certainly what we heard the bylaw is right now, that's so wide open, it's no good. I completely agree with you that you have to rewrite it slowly, and as was said over here, deliberately, and do it excellently, because Littleton is a sitting duck otherwise for all the developers coming from the east, the west, the north. So, thank you.
Well, then why don't we put this back on for the 11th, and maybe by then you'll decide if you want to take mine and Mr. Knox's invitation to start working every 2 weeks to come up with something that will have a chance to pass town meeting in October for that town meeting.
And there was a letter sent in and also an email. Maybe I should read it. I got sent copies, but.
I think we got enough going on here. Why don't we meet the 11th? Hopefully by that time we can get a decision from the Fletchers which way they want to go.
So the selectmen agree with that?
Do you agree? Would you be willing to work all summer long with this to get something? Yeah, sure.
Absolutely.
I
What about
on the
this
Conservation
bylaw?
Commission.
Okay.
I'm probably the only Conservation Commission member here. We'd be also be willing to
absolutely
participate in that.
There are 2 members from each board, and we all sit down every other Tuesday, open to the public to sit down. Yes?
Some citizens.
Some citizens as well, yes. Why don't we put it on for the 11th and see if you guys decide if you want to go forward with what you have, or if you want to work with us. And I understand it'll take more time, and I totally do get your frustration, but if it's going to be a bylaw, and it's going to work well, and it's going to serve the town, it's got to be good for both parties involved. And I'm sorry if I let you want to think that I was all set to sign on the dotted line. I want to see everything that we worked hard for translate to something that the next person down the road can do just as well.
Wait, no, so as far as this discussion, whose bylaws are gonna be when we're done?
It's gonna be, it's not the one
It's
that.
not us.
It
Right
is.
now, it's not
No,
us.
no.
It's selectmen's
We'll have to
special
talk,
permit, not us.
right, we'll have to talk about that. It should be in our purview, and that will be part of the changes that we're gonna work on as we go forward. We should be the special permit.
Do we want to discuss this? We do have a board of selectmen on parking joint meeting. Can we at least address that simple part?
I don't,
Good point.
Make life easier.
well, I mean, Don brings up a good point. While you're all there,
Great.
do you have a problem if we become the special permitting?
We were just talking about, we're just talking.
Yeah, I mean, this is a joint meeting, which is unusual that we have our schedules together.
I don't want to speak for the rest of the board members, but I don't have an issue with it.
So we could, like I said, if we
We're
can
basically
work on it,
land
I
use.
have no problem with, like, every, should be.
The entire board's not here.
Yeah, but the rest of you, I mean.
We're gonna put it on our agenda
Right.
for the,
But I mean, we're not even voting on it. I'm just saying that if we do decide to go forward with this, at the end of it, part of the change will be that the planning board will be the special permitting granting.
I mean, one thing that is happening, there are 2 warrant articles, and one addresses that. So, I mean, that's a focal point, and there's.
Well, there's 2 articles in the warrant, 2 petitioned articles.
which the Board of Selectmen has voted to refer to, but if you don't schedule a hearing or you don't have your recommendation for town meeting, neither one is going to be heard by the May town meeting. But more to the point of setting the goal of August 1st, but by the time, with respect to this question of who's going to be the special permit granting authority, we'll certainly know by August 1st, because we will have spent all that time together and heard what you had to say, we'll hear what the selectmen had to say, and, we'll arrive at some consensus about that, but I don't think we're there yet.
And if that makes sense, when would we have to hold the public hearing for that particular warrant article, I think 22?
Before town meeting.
Before we do this,
Is there a
who's gonna,
timeframe?
who's gonna run these meetings?
We are.
Well, no, we are?
Joint
Who's gonna be in charge of meetings?
Joint
meeting. Usually
No
Keith.
one's taking lead.
If it's a joint meeting,
Okay,
Keith.
but somebody's gotta
You
keep the
want-
meeting going.
Yeah, you want to have Mark Rassicot come back?
Somebody should chair the meeting.
That
Make
would-
sure-
One of the things that I was getting from maybe the first 45 minutes of this discussion was that when we did this same thing for Littleton Common, we had a facilitator.
Oh, yeah.
And that I think we might want to
Absolutely.
do that to help us keep on
Yeah.
track. So why don't we
Yeah,
try to
referee.
line that up?
Plus also, he's a very good planner
Yeah.
as well. I mean, more than just a consultant.
the August 1st date. Yeah.
No, no,
Yeah,
no,
this
no.
is committed.
Well, no, that's why I wanted to
So
facilitate
I
to
think
make
it-
sure
no, I think
it
it
doesn't
helps
get.
actually.
And we
Because
really
then
have
we'd only
three
have to have the
boards, two
conversation
land use
once.
boards and board
Right.
selectmen, so.
And that if we do have
When we
citizen
say August
input,
1st,
we have,
it may be
we have
September 1st, as long as we're ready
representation.
for October town meeting. That's my point. I mean, you're getting right to the summer, you're gonna have people, it may take a little more than us, but as long as we're going forward and we're ready for October town meeting, that's my point.
I like the August 1st.
Stick with it.
It's fine, but
August 1st.
it's summer, I'm just saying.
Is it gonna be a special committee? Because if you're doing that and you're gonna have citizens at large, you're gonna form the committee, it has to be, you have minutes, you have a month and a half before you form that. Is this something you guys
I
are
wasn't
recommending?
hearing the committee. No, I think it's a process that involves the boards and the public.
And we'll have a set time, and the public is welcome to
And I
come
think
in
we
and
bring in a
give them
facilitator from the MAPC to help run those
So it's
meetings.
just a general meeting, not a planning
Use the
board
same
meeting?
format that we used for Area B and Area A.
Right, it's the same
The
person.
same format.
Exactly.
Is on that, just
Yeah,
one
I-
bylaw.
it's collaborative and productive and facilitative.
And do you wanna pick it, we'll do it at night, we'll do it at night.
Yeah.
We'll post it, and whoever wants to come and be heard, there'll be a public meeting like that.
Yeah. open meeting.
Yeah, we'll
Just the same process that we use for Area A, B.
Well, why don't we continue this till the 11th, and hopefully the Fletchers will tell us that.
And we'll bring it up on the 8th at our
Well-
meeting and just discuss it, so we have consensus amongst our board.
You know, you don't need the Fletcher's permission to do that.
Right.
We don't.
Okay, if this bylaw, as it's supposed to be, is something that is far-reaching across the town, and I think we all agree, you need the bylaw as a way to encourage recreational development, preservation of open space. I think you guys should plan it, do it, and get it done. You don't need the permission of the Fletchers to do that.
That's fine, that's fine. I didn't want to be accused of not wanting to keep them in, I agree 100%.
Oh, they certainly have the right to be
This is
in,
the town of
and,
Littleton
you know,
issue.
it will
We should
affect their
just resolve
land.
it as the town of Littleton, I
But
agree.
you know, to say, geez, if that's okay with you guys, this is what we'll do.
The reason why I said that was
He
so
said
that I said it, so that it would give you a chance to think about whether or not you want to go in front of the town with the way it is right now and risk failure, most likely definite failure, or work and have some of your input so that, you know, more heads are better than none, you know? That if you wish to work with it, and then get the blessing, and really, I mean, we need to know what some of the things you want. And it's not just you in particular, because of their insight is gonna help with the other people that are thinking about, Matheson has a ton of land, you know, so who knows, Annie Pickett, they're all over
All
the
sorts
place.
of people.
So, the homeowner, the person, the landowner that wants to do what they wanna do with their land, and I'm under I think you should be able to do almost anything you want with your land. You paid for it, you pay the taxes. This, what you're doing now, is gonna preserve land for the town. It's gonna leave it open. I'd rather try and work with you and give you pretty much whatever you need, in my idea, so that the town gets what it wants with that open space. And I think you do need to make money off your land. You know, the farmers are dying, you need to do something, you know? That's my opinion.
Appreciate it.
All right, well, we're gonna,
Mark, will there be some type of notification sent to the chairman? Because I'm not representing the chairman for the Conservation Commission.
unfortunately, our office was
It's closed for.
closed for a couple of weeks, yeah.
So if we
Not
could just
everyone
get,
got
not
notified.
for this meeting coming up.
Yes. Well, we're gonna meet on the 11th to decide how we wanna go forward. And then we'll set up a schedule if we could do it like on a regular basis, like every 2 weeks on the same day, so everyone knows what it's gonna be. I think that would probably work best.
So maybe you would like to be notified in particular, just to make sure there's
I'm thinking that
communication.
might be.
We'll make sure you're notified.
So maybe Carl.
Though, unfortunately, like I said.
Yeah,
Because even though it did go to administrative assistant, it
Yeah.
fell apart. and
right. If
the
it gets
person's
to
part-time.
Heather, that's fine.
Yeah,
Okay.
but maybe Heather and Carl.
Mr. Sussman, do you have any words of wisdom to close this meeting?
Well, I was just gonna say, why do you need to wait till the 11th to get started? You could start this process tomorrow. You pick people and have them start meeting, but because you were continuing.
That's right, we don't need the Fletchers, he's right. Let's schedule, you guys are free tomorrow night?
We don't have a full board, that's all.
Yeah, why don't we let the selectmen decide how they wanna, we'll go forward with it, we'll talk about it, and we'll set a schedule up after that.
Ball's rolling, let's move.
And words of encouragement, Mr. Sussman, are well taken.
All right, I think that's it. I wanna thank everyone for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Your idea of just throwing something together.
This is your first second. Whatever's the second.
We're adjourned.
I was, that's the first time we used that thing.
Early.
Huh?